When you think about China and the EU's relationship, what frightens you the most?
I think what frightens me is the relationship breaking down. What frightens me is not China's exponential economic growth, it's that growth stalling or crashing. I mean, China is now a very important, integral part of the global economy. It's taking up some of the slack of the approaching recession in the United States. We need China to succeed. We need China to come to terms and contribute to solutions concerning climate change. We need China to bring about a rebalancing of its economy from some of its overheated sectors, which are stoking inflation and its export-led growth, to greater domestic demand. There are so many changes and transitions that have got to be brought about in a stable and peaceful way in China. Our job, in my view, is to help China do that, to help China succeed, because, as I say, there is a huge and growing interdependence between us in the global economy. It would be a disaster for the global economy, a disaster for us, as well as, of course, a disaster for China, if their growth and if their social system, if their environment broke down under the strains of what they're going through.
We had a lot of talk about economic sustainability and social sustainability, but you also mentioned the political sustainability of the Chinese regime. What did you mean by that?
Well, look, as China changes, as you see this great movement of population from the land to the towns, as you see growing inequalities amongst the Chinese people, as you see people asserting their rights as members of a workforce, their employment rights, when you see Chinese people reacting against pollution or contamination of water, now all this is going to spark a lot of unrest. Now, what we have got a stake in is to see the Chinese political authorities responding to those public concerns, addressing the fundamental causes that are sparking that unrest, and bringing about a stable transition in China that will make it a stronger society, a more democratic politics in China, but also economically and environmental terms more sustainable in the growth that it achieves. Now, that's certainly in China's interests, but it's in our interests as well, and that's why I believe that we need to be making a contribution to helping China deal with these great challenges in a politically sensitive and smart way.
Well, now we have had a lot of blunt instrument politics recently. The Olympic Tibet issues have come to the fore. Now, there's going to be this EU-China conference later on this month, the first one since November, I believe. Do issues like that overhang talks? Does it make it more difficult for you to get cooperation?
Well, it presents us with something of a dilemma, because we have to express our political differences and assert the values and the concerns we have, whilst at the same time acknowledging our interdependence and the way in which we have to work together to address some of the economic and environmental issues that I've been talking about, and social ones as well. So we have to combine these things, and we do in our discussions. We have very frank conversations. But our influence is going to be exercised more effectively by talking directly to Chinese state leaders, rather than going in for grandstanding and gestures, which may please your public at home, but don't actually do anything to influence the course of events in China.
All right. Time is running out for the Doha round of talks. Mr. Bush is on his way in December this year. Now, you talked about the basis of a deal on the agricultural side of things, I think, yesterday. Today is the final talking session about that. Do you think a deal will that basis be realised?
I think that we now have the basis for an endgame negotiation on the agricultural side of this negotiation. I'm not saying that every sort of dot is put on every, I and every T crossed. But we now have the basis of an end deal negotiation, and I think a successful outcome on agriculture. But the big challenge, the big political argument that's going to be had, I think, is to reach a comparable, matching political agreement on the industrial side. And there the emerging economies have not just got to bind their existing openness, but they've got to match, to an extent, what we're doing in agriculture, bringing down tariffs, in many cases, very significantly. Now, they may not have to do equally what we're doing in agriculture, but they certainly have to make cuts in their applied tariffs in order to create some new market access. Without that, I can't bring a deal back home. I don't believe the United States trade representative will be able to bring a deal back home. We have to have some proportional matching on the agriculture and the industrial side. If we don't achieve that, I believe the talks will fail.